You ever read a book?
Yeah.
What kind of book?
Green eggs and ham.
Dr. Seuss? That's what you got for me is Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, you asked if I read a book. Everybody read Dr. Seuss. You haven't read Dr. Seuss?
I mean, of course. Of course I've read Dr. Seuss. I thought you was going to give me something like In Cold Blood or like The Help. I don't even know who wrote The Help. I seen the movie. I didn't watch it. I didn't read the book.
Wasn't that Octavia Butler to help?
Yeah, she was in it. She was in it. But I've never read the book. And obviously the book did great because it turned into a movie.
The Help was one of those movies that I watched with my mom, and it was on my list of movies I'm never watching again unless I don't absolutely have to watch it. So
What's wrong with it?
it's nothing wrong with it. I just don't want to watch it again.
I thought Octavia. It's not. No, it's Octavia Spencer. Who'd you say?
I said Octavia Butler.
No, it's Octavia Spencer. Is it? Oh, see, now we can't get cut up. We can't get cut up in the comments just because we don't know.
No,
It's Octavia Spencer.
No, Catherine Stockett wrote.
No, we talking about who was in the movie.
Oh,
Octavia Spencer.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he was right.
Okay.
He was right.
Okay. Well, going back to the book or a book, the last book I've ever read was
the last book. See, you didn't say the last book. You said what's a book that you've read. Now,
Well, I asked you if you ever read a book. So if you have read a book, I mean, you said Green Eggs and Ham. That was your choice. Me, the last book I read was The Hunger Games. It was actually part one of The Mockingjay. Which one is one of the last books? I can't remember. Anyway, I read it on my iPhone, believe it or not. And to be honest, that's really not that bad of an experience. You ever done that?
That's what I have an iPad mini for. That's what I read on.
Okay.
Most of the time.
So you've never read a book on an iPhone?
I have read a book on an iPhone, but I'm older now, so I need to bring that iPad mini with me.
Okay.
Bigger screen.
Okay. I've thought about a Kindle, but I don't know if I would use it enough. That the iPhone book reading experience wasn't so bad, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna dig into it.
Well, it just helps to not have the phone in your hand. You can put it down. No, you get iPad or you can get notifications on your iPad and shit, but you can, not have those apps on there and just be reading on it. Kindle app, audiobooks is perfect for me at least.
Well, this podcast is kind of like an audiobook, so let's go ahead and get into it. What up, T3P fam? You're watching Tech and Trade. I'm your host, Bryce Thompson. And if you're new here, please subscribe, smash that like button, and smack that notification bell. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, please be sure to give us a follow so you never miss an episode. Today, I got Evan with me, longtime friend from college, almost a Tesla driver. And we're gonna get into that in a little bit. But first, let's just jump right into it. What car are you driving right now?
I am driving a 2018 Audi Q5.
Okay.
Premium Plus trend. Premium Plus.
Okay, Premium Plus. PPP loan. Nah, I ain't gonna.
Hey,
do that. My fault.
I just did my taxes. They know they can't put nothing on me. I ain't got nothing.
Dang,
they seen it.
You did yours early. I'm still waiting on some of my stuff to come in. I hate that because I always got to do mine in February. But anyway. So what made you go with the Audi?
The short version of a long story.
No, I want the long version. Pause.
Okay. Whoa. So started in 2020. Started in 2023. From 2021 to 2023, during the pandemic, I had a BMW 3 Series, specifically a 330e, which is a great car for the most part. The biggest drawbacks with it is the fact that you're still putting premium gas and filling up a premium gas tank and not getting a lot of electricity from a range perspective. So that part sucks. But other than that, it was a great car. I love that car. I did a lot of great things with that car. Red interior, great car.
I think I remember that.
Yes.
We went up north somewhere in Chicago in that car. It was a nice car.
Yeah. It's a great car. And the opportunity came up with my fiance at the time to be able to go get a Tesla. So I've been paying a car note since I was like 2021. Since I was 21.
Mm-hmm.
So my wife had volunteered to, take on the ownership and responsibility of paying a car note. And I was like, great. So we were deciding between cars, and I was just like, hey, let's just stumble into a Tesla dealership. So we go into the Tesla dealership, and I already go to the Model Y because I knew she wasn't going to be into the Model S or the Model 3 because she's more into SUVs. So I go straight for the Model Y, and I say, hey, let's go take this for a test drive and test it out. And I did most of the test driving, but she was in the passenger seat, and she loved every second of it.
And it is a nice car. I was trying, like when my mom was looking at a Tesla, I was trying to talk her into the Y, for practical reasons. But I mean, she ended up going with something else. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, I mean, we loved the car. We had a great salesperson, and we put down a reservation fee for the car. When it came down time to trade in the car, everything, the Tesla app is so intuitive for the most part. You go in, if you're trading in a car, you go in there, you take the necessary pictures. Somebody on the Tesla side is looking at the pictures, probably not, probably AI. They're scanning the pictures just to kind of make sure it's up to snuff. And then they're giving you like then they're giving you a price on the trade-in for the car. So the total valuation of our trade-in, it's two-part here. Total valuation of our trade-in was $15,400 something.
Mm-hmm. Is that negative or no?
That was very negative based on what I owed on the car,
mm-hmm.
and the street value of the car.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing was that with all the taxes and the fees and everything like that, the Model Y that we spec'd out was about $42,000.
Mm-hmm.
So with the trade-in credit, right, we still would have need to come up with a few $1,000s, which, it wasn't going to be that big of a deal. But Tesla undervaluing my BMW was a really big issue, and they did not come up off of that valuation. So unfortunately, we had to lose our reservation fee because we just weren't going to sign up for such a low valuation,
right,
on that car.
It's interesting you say that because like I had heard, other than this experience, that like Tesla was one of the automakers that provided like a higher trade-in price. I don't know if it was like as great as like CarMax. Like CarMax has a fantastic reputation for something like that. Like you can just go get the certificate of like what they would offer and take that to other dealerships and be like, hey, you can't lowball me based on this. But no, I mean, okay, so that sucks, right? But anyway, go ahead, continue. So how did you end up with the Audi?
So wait, hold on. Let's take a step back. Let's actually talk about that trade-in price and Tesla specifically, because in my experience, because I've dealt with them now 3 times on 3 different occasions with 2 different cars, mm-hmm. about trade-ins. I think they undervalue cars, and I think they do that purposefully to be able to flip to other dealerships locally, or whatever their strategy is with that.
Yeah, back to the auction.
Yeah. So they sell the car at such a premium. Before we got on the podcast, I was thinking to myself, everything that is happening with Tesla, that happens with SpaceX, everything that comes from those programs is something that Elon. It's all about Elon's way. If the dealership is not winning, like, because some instances you can go to a dealership and win. I've had plenty of dealership wins in my lifetime.
Yeah. Especially now with the way the market is.
Well, I mean, maybe not.
I'm only saying that because of the time that a lot of cars are spending on lots. right? Like there are a bunch of cars, even still from 2023, that are brand new that are sitting on car lots, and people aren't buying them because they don't want a new car from 2023.
Yeah, new cars definitely. Used cars, they're not coming above that price for the
Mm-mm.
most part.
No.
You can't even talk them down $1,500 for the most part. But Tesla would not negotiate on either the used cars that I had brought to them when I was ready to purchase Tesla. So I would say that most of the time they're in it. They're in it to win it. I think if you were interested in buying a Tesla that wasn't from the Tesla dealership, obviously do your research with the dealership that you do decide to purchase from. But you're more likely to win at another dealership that's selling a Tesla than you are from Tesla directly. Because unless you're going to Tesla to lease the car, because that's the real win, right? With all their programs around leasing and stuff like that, if you can lease the car from Tesla, then you're in a better position versus like just buying it outright.
Right. So then let me ask you again, how did you end up buying the Audi?
So I went a little over a year without a car. Living in Chicago, wasn't that bad. I worked downtown, take the train everywhere, Uber everywhere.
Right.
And when it came down time to look for a car, me and my now wife, we were going back and forth on different cars. She wanted a Toyota RAV4. I wanted something that was a little bit more luxury, a little bit more premium. And ultimately, when she was like, "Fine, you can just pick the car," I was like, "Great." And I went around and I did some shopping based on down payments, based on APR percentages, the whole nine. And actually got a really good deal from CarMax on this 2018 Audi Q5. Had good technology, had good miles on it. We have a kid on the way, so this is
Congrats.
Thank you. This is just a kid car, so get everywhere we need to go. Won't mind it getting too destroyed, and it could take some abuse. The Audi Q5s, they have some off-roading capabilities. Not that I do that, but knowing that it can take some abuse on the streets was good enough for me. So sight unseen, just straight out the internet, I went and bought it through the CarMax website, and they delivered it to me.
So based on your current experience with the Audi, do you think you would ever, money being no issue, right? Like, do you think you would ever buy a Tesla? And this is we're not even, I mean, I'm trying not to be political on here. So like, we're not going to get into what Elon is doing right now, because that might sway a lot of answers, but ignoring him, would you still see yourself getting into a Tesla?
Probably not. And it's because the Rivians now have my heart as the car.
I agree. Oh yeah. The only thing I don't like about like the rest of the EV market is like the supercharging network, or the charging network in general, is just not. There is no comparison to the Tesla supercharging network. And sure, I think, Elon opened it up to, the rest of the market through like adapters and things like that. But I still think the way that it works, right, is not going to be as seamless and streamlined as it would with like, you pulling up to a Tesla charger with a Tesla. It's kind of like the way Apple has created their ecosystem. Yep. And like you're not forced. Apple talks to you so nice, right? Like you're not forced, but it's like you feel very compelled to continue to buy Apple products, because if you don't, like, you got an iPhone, you got AirPods, you got an Apple Watch, and then you gon' buy a PC? If you're not gonna game, you just gonna buy a PC to surf the web and be nasty like that? That's hideous. I have to have a Mac. Like,
some people do that though. Some people don't do that though, Bryce. And here's where Apple and Tesla separate from an ecosystem perspective, right? Apple, believe it or not, does allow you to be able to use other devices. So if you didn't want to use AirPods, right, you can use Pixel Buds, with the Samsung Buds. I have Sonos over your headphones, right? You can still use those things and get 80% of what you would get with AirPods. I know there's some like UI and
I mean, I agree, but
technical
AirPods,
capabilities.
yeah, but AirPods, in terms of like the way those fit largely into the ecosystem and like how you use the tech,
Ease
it's probably on the
of
small
use.
end. I mean, if we talking about
Yeah.
laptop to some, but going back to the car part though, like
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. I would prefer a Rivian over a Tesla any day of the week. I mean, that is
Yeah.
both of them. They are stunning vehicles. They're coming out with the two smaller cars. Those, I mean, I'm on the fence. Like I think I need to see it in person, right? I've seen the concepts, I've seen the pictures, but I need to see the car in person before I make my specific declaration. Like for example, I thought the Cybertruck looked extremely cool, right? And I think from certain angles it does, but like the more I see it on the street, I'm kind of just like, sorry, like it's fine, but like it doesn't really seem like it just doesn't seem like it's easy to drive. Like it just feels too sharp. And to be honest, I don't really like the back end anymore. Like I'm not a fan. And to be and then again, like I feel like since it's so different from the rest of the cars, like it does, the other four cars look like they are all in a family, right? They have that brand language, and then here comes this like geometric brick driving down the street, and it doesn't look like anything else that they make. However, you still get that same bare bones interior, and I feel like they should have stepped it up. Honestly, like over time, right? I'm on a tangent, but like Tesla with the original Model S, you remember what the old screen looked like that big vertical screen. That was a beautiful interior. Like honestly, it was groundbreaking. It was innovative. I think they pushed the rest of the market. Like you started to see other brands, like especially like Chrysler with or not Chrysler, sorry, Ram with their trucks. They started putting that large vertical screen in a lot of their trucks. If you had that trim level, Ford started doing some of that. General Motors, of course, is always lacking with interiors. They're usually far behind, but other manufacturers have started doing that. Volvo is another one. And I don't know. I feel like if you're going to pay all that, you need to get something different, especially if the car ain't going to look like anything else in the family. But overall, Tesla in general, aside from everything else, they are pretty innovative. And it leads me to this next topic. I wanted to ask you, have you heard anything about like the full, not full, but like almost full automation that Tesla has for their manufacturing process, given the amount of robotics that they have inside their facility? I don't think it's like fully going to replace human jobs, of course, but as far as assembly goes, from start to finish, they are very close to being at 100%. They're approaching that because the cars, most of the cars, all of the cars, which I assume are capable of driving themselves out of the factory into their original parking lot or assigned parking spot for pickup.
So here's the thing, right? Number one, I don't think that's a good thing. I think to be quite honest, I texted our group chat the other day and I was like, oh, I saw the new Tesla Model Y with smaller branding and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It looks like shit to me. It really does. Because it looks cheap. It looks like they're charging you for they're charging you for the brand and not for what it means to actually drive a Tesla in terms of like quality on the road, so on and so forth. That brings you to the point about the automation in their factories, right? Mm-hmm. You can take out the human workers if you want to save money. I mean, that's your business. Do what you have to do. But in terms of making the quality of the car better and be able to get to scale to mass production faster, I don't think that means anything because the AI, the computer, the robots, they're all making the same mistakes that the human would make. And
well, why do you think that?
Because there's plenty of instances. So I live I live within the range of two Tesla service centers, right? One in the South Loop, and then one on like further up on Elston. And there used to be one right around the corner from me. And the key scenario for all of those service centers is that those lots are constantly full of new Model Ys, brand new Model Ys with like dents and scratches and like board and like pieces falling off. I remember driving down the street one day and I legit saw somebody like pulling their Tesla Model Y in with the door hanging off of the frame. And like, it's stuff like that where I'm just like, you can't necessarily blame that on like a human person. Maybe it's a driver issue and the service center is resolving it. Who knows? But when I see stuff like that and you get into the Reddit and you deep dive on all the stuff, at the end of the day, I just see us a business that's cutting corners to help bring cars to market faster and not necessarily deliver the same quality.
I mean, it's interesting that you would say that though, because like Tesla has had a long-standing issue with panel gaps. Like,
yeah.
And I mean, now that I don't know. Now, okay, I don't know if that's human error or what. Quite frankly, I'm not extremely familiar with the machines that that cut out. I think
it's a design flaw, honestly, because
Probably.
the way that the car is designed, it's so many sharp angles or rounded angles at different parts. With the older cars and especially with the Cybertruck, it's all sharp angles. So there's gonna be room for natural gaps in there, and I think they do it on purpose because it helps with aerodynamics and electric mileage.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't know. I just know that, sometimes due to the panel gap issues, people were having water seep into their car when it's raining, things not fitting the right way, or, things falling out of alignment, and then, like doors not closing appropriately, things like that. And given how expensive the car is, that seems like a problem. Now, granted,
facts.
People were giving Tesla an excuse because they were saying that they're a relatively new company and blah, blah, blah. And they were comparing them to Ford. And they were saying that, Ford doesn't have this issue because they have a long legacy and a history of building cars. But then you go, like, again, going back to Rivian, I don't hear anything about that. I don't hear anything about that from any of the other car manufacturers that, switched over to EV design. If that changes anything about the car architecture, it's interesting because it's not stopping people from buying Teslas. It just feels like it doesn't matter how much bad press Tesla gets, they will continue to sell cars. And even the used ones, like, I mean, okay, so like going back to my mom, she bought a Model 3. She bought a used one, right?
Nice.
It's a beautiful car. She got the long range edition, so that battery really packs a punch. She throws it in sport mode. It's honestly crazy, and it's a fun car to drive. But still, she ran into that problem where the screen turned off and she couldn't operate the car at all. And she hadn't even had the car for a year. You know what I mean? Thankfully, she had a warranty. But there are a lot of stories like that, and people still buy Teslas. Granted, I looked at them. I looked at them pretty intensely. But the more I think about it, I would love to have a different vehicle. Now, one thing I'm definitely not going to buy, though, is that Ford Lightning. There are too many bad stories about that. I'm not touching it.
Yeah. So if we're going down like an EV wish list here, right? So the Rivian is great. I'm very into the Lucid Air. I really like that car.
Mm-hmm. Anything Lucid is amazing.
Yeah, Lucid. I said Lucid. I've seen a couple Polestars in the city, and I'm not gonna lie, they look nice on the outside.
They do, but I've never been able to get into Volvo. I've never. Granted, okay, yeah, you said Polestar, but you know what I mean. Like, I've never been able to just.
It's a Volvo.
It is, yeah, but I've never been able to bring myself, and I like the way they look. I really do.
They look really good.
But it's just, That's another car I don't like the back end of though. I feel like it's very boxy and it doesn't match the front.
I think the biggest issues with EVs right now, if you're trying to get into them and justify the purchase price, is that if you live in like the Midwest like we do, or in a balance, I'll call it a balanced climate where half the year it's cold, half the year it's warm, right? Your range is never going to be close to whatever the EPA rating is for the car ever. It's never going to be like that. So there's going to be some things that you can do like tires and like being more efficient with how you charge it and things like that. But in terms of like from an adoption perspective, I think that's what stops a lot of people from like purchasing an EV. And like when you consider it up to like a gas car, or even like a hybrid car, right? You just want to make sure that like if you're going from Chicago to Indianapolis or Indianapolis to Nashville, that you're going to be able to get from point A to point B and back from B to A without really having to do too much charging or too much stopping with reliability and consistency. And electric vehicles don't always offer that, especially if you are the type of person that likes to drive really fast.
True. Yeah, you really can't have a lead foot with an EV. But I mean, look, shout out to Uber drivers because I would totally have one if I was in that industry. But still on the EV topic, let's finish with this question right here. So Trump removed the EV mandate from a lot of these manufacturers. Which I don't know how to feel about it. I'm kind of neutral, but that isn't the question. The question, in addition to that, is with the tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and the removal of the EV mandate, how do you let me get your opinion on like the direction in which you see the domestic auto industry going, as like some U.S. companies are producing some vehicles in Mexico, and then tariffs on imported cars and things like that. Not going down a political road, but just like, how do you feel that or those decisions are going to affect the auto industry?
I think there are going to be some winners and losers here, and I don't think that the winners and losers are going to be who we expect them to be. I think the biggest loser is going to be us, right? Yeah. We were trending towards this era of a cheap electric vehicle, something that's like $30,000 that can get you 220 miles of range EPA, that people can drive from A to B to the grocery store, whatever they need to do.
Like, right? The Chevy Equinox, which is a nice car, by the way.
Mm-hmm. But now that dream is dead, right? And with the tariffs and removing the EV mandate and things like that, obviously our environment suffers. But more importantly, again, we lose as the consumer, because now these really cool cars we're never going to have a chance to drive, because the electric vehicle is going to be a luxury companion thing and not necessarily a thing that like somebody middle class or lower class and I can afford. And just from an automaker's perspective, I mean, they're going to win because all they're doing, anything with tariffs, the consumer loses because they just pass down those costs. The automakers have been looking for excuses to raise the prices on cars. Just a quick story: when me and my wife were going back and forth about the Toyota RAV4 situation, and she went on the Toyota website, and I was just like, if we're going to spend this much on a car, we might as well go get the Tesla or go get an electric vehicle. Mm-hmm. And when she finally looked at the price of a brand new Toyota RAV4, in her mind, it's still like a $27,000 car, right? $28,000 car.
Right.
The brand new Toyota RAV4 is $33,000 base.
Which is insane.
That's insane. Yeah. $33,000 base. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about tariffs and import fees and stuff like that, that same Toyota RAV4 is now going to be 37, 38, 39 base.
Yeah, but a lot of those cars are built here. However, I agree with you, right? Like I do think electric vehicles might go back to having a premium price point, but hopefully the rest of the market, ICE cars are going to be able to drop in price, especially these new cars, right? Like cars are sitting for a really, really, really long time. I mean, I think, where they're averaging now is a record, right, of like 500 or so days, which is ridiculous. And it's largely because people cannot afford these cars and they got driven up during the pandemic. Chip shortage lasted too long. I still don't think we've caught up to like where we were pre-pandemic. Not to say, that these companies aren't still producing cars at a decent rate, but like prices aren't coming down. And it is because for a while, at least, I'd say like in between like 2021 and 2023, people were still buying cars. Prices were going up, but people were buying cars. Now, granted, as prices continue to go up, like a brand new Ford F-150 is like running you like $90,000 after dealer markup, taxes, and whatever else, like add-ons or any customizations you put on the car. That's ridiculous, especially for a car to, for a vehicle to be a gas guzzler. It's a utility vehicle. It's not designed to really drive you around the city and be efficient, so you're definitely going over $100,000 once you consider, your annual annual gas costs, or just cost of ownership. Like it's ridiculous, and it is slowing the market. But I'm hoping that without the EV mandate, some of those cars, especially trucks, I'm biased because I'm interested in trucks, but like ICE cars in general will begin to come back down. And I'm hoping that also affects the used market too. And if some of these, if these companies are going to stand by their word though, then they will be producing these EVs at a consistent rate because they pledged, so-called, to have, a certain percentage of their vehicle lineup to be at whatever by 2020, 30, I'd say, right? Like, I think it was General Motors, like they put it out in a Super Bowl ad and they were saying that like 50% of their lineup was going to be EV by 2030. And look, and to be honest,
they're on their way.
It seemed like they were on track for that. Chevy specifically, the Blazer, the Equinox, like I just mentioned, the new Silverado EV, which I don't really care for too much, but those three vehicles, they only have like 5 or 6 cars in their lineup, I'd say. So like that's 50%. I can't be mad. I cannot be mad. But people are not buying them because like, the Silverado was starting at like 98,000. Most people don't have that kind of money. Even if you make $98,000 a year, you're probably not going to go buy a $98,000 car. That would be financially irresponsible.
Well, there's other reasons why people aren't buying cars. Like, realistically speaking, you're going to a dealership to go acquire a new car, right? Unless your credit score, even if your credit score is in really good shape, right? They're doing some really shady things in that back office a lot of the times with the financing and stuff like that. And the monthly payment is what gets you tricked out because, at pre-pandemic, there was a couple times where I didn't put anything down on a car. Maybe a few $100 at the most. And I was able to walk out with a solid monthly payment that met my financial criteria at the time. Now, different situation, different financial criteria. I should have an upper hand where I have a manageable monthly payment. But, people, like, you see TikToks, you see videos, people are getting like crazy APR percentages, crazy monthlies, and crazy lease terms, like 72, 84, 96,
the average
96 months is just ridiculous.
Right. The average, what's the loan term has gone up by like 2 years. I think people are averaging 7 years now when it was 5. And then, prior to that, it being 4. So like, it's really just because it's just people can't afford it. High interest rates. They're doing anything to get their monthly costs low, but they're getting ripped off long term because, you're paying for like the whole car plus a third once you get done with the loan. And it's ridiculous. But look, let's close it here. It's been a great discussion. I'm glad that you really like your Audi. I think it's a really nice car. And I think you made a good choice. And now you don't have to have that bumper sticker that says you bought this before we realized Elon was crazy, which I think that bumper sticker is freaking hilarious. If I had a Tesla, I would rock that bumper sticker. But yeah, man, it's been a great conversation. I really appreciate you joining the podcast.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
For sure.
And,
yeah, for sure.
I love to have you back on here because there's plenty to talk about, and like talking to fellow enthusiasts. So anyway, thanks guys again for watching the show. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button and smack that notification bell. And again, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, please be sure to follow. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.